Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by VSiN's.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, bonus hockey pod, one of the funnest times of the year. We get to talk to our friends who are our smart friends out there in the space, pick their brains on the sports that we don't actively handicap. And today, with the NHL puck drop 1 week away.
7 days. Exactly. I just looked it up.
We get to talk some hockey. And so, as is tradition, we do the Triple Andrew podcast here. We welcome our friend Andy MacNeil of the North at Digital Gambler on Twitter, hockey handicapper extraordinaire.
Yeah,
is that fair descriptor?
That's all I do. That's all I do. I don't do anything else. So
yeah, it's dark like 8 months out of the year there in northern Alberta, and you shovel your driveway, you bet some hockey, watch some puck, go to bed, call it a day. And yes, I
don't even shovel the driveway most days. I mean,
Christ, we just did this. Like I felt like we just had you on. And it's because it was like January, man. It was like early January. We had a preview with you, and right before the damn season started, and here we are. It's like, what, not even 10 months later, we're doing it again. But that's got to be kind of nice. Like, and maybe I'm asking a dumb question right off the bat, but that's kind of what we're going to hit you with today is like casual hockey fan questions. Well, we're not. It's not going to be softballs for sure. It's going to be casuals.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Like this is normal, right? Is this pretty normal? Early October? What is it? October 12th,
yeah,
the first game, Kraken kickoff. Like we're back on the normal schedule.
The season would have typically started already, if not for the late finish last season, obviously. But yeah, no. Somebody asked me if I bet NHL preseason the other day on Twitter, and I kind of said my answer would have been different 5 to 10 years ago, but no. I really cherish this kind of week between when I finish doing all my preseason projections and the between that and when the regular season starts, so that I can just kind of forget that this is all happening right now, and that I'm going to be locked in my lair for the next whatever 8-9 months, right? So
turns out that's good news for you, because we are noted preseason NHL hockey sharps, and so you don't want to be in the pool with us. Absolutely smashing some CLV. Really, the information.
Have you watched those numbers, Drew?
Oh my God, it's
hilarious.
It's hilarious. It reminds me of like the way preseason football used to be with some totals and sides, where you would see it open +3, back +3, and it closes like -5, and you're like, how is this possible? But if you catch some information like, hey, team A, Kraken tonight is a good example. Kraken were what, +125 when you bet into that, and now they're like -125. That's a probability swing that's seemingly impossible. But
for sure, yeah. And anybody that says betting on preseason is only for degenerates doesn't know what they're talking about. But I mean, I don't want to risk sounding like too pretentious here, but it's sort of beneath me at this point.
Of course.
And I kind of just I would rather spend time with my family and relaxing before I don't get that opportunity, right? So
no,
yeah,
totally.
It's because it is all informational. It takes a lot of digging around and figuring out. And you're going to be doing that for the next 3/4 of a year. But yeah, like yesterday,
it's not so much. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to handicap this stuff. I mean, if you've got a picture of what the roster should look like on opening day of the regular season, and you can compare that to what it looks like early enough in the day, you're probably going to be able to pick the side that's the good bet. But it's definitely an information game, like you said.
Yep.
That was my favorite part, is we don't even know that. Like we're just listening to some. That is the part of the networking. It's like, hey, let's listen to these hockey guys, because yesterday I think Philly opened a dog technically on the open, and they closed -2.25.
Didn't the Devils too? Didn't the Devils also?
Yeah, the Devils were a dog.
That one wasn't quite as much steam.
If you are getting into the preseason stuff, don't chase steam. Don't get in too late, because you're going to pay a hefty sum for that. And I mean that goes for the regular season too. Honestly, that goes for any sport. Don't just go crazy chasing steam. You're going to get hurt when one of those goes the wrong way and you paid an extra 40 cents on something. But right off the bat, my biggest question I ran into right away, because we are noted Olympic guys. What are they doing? Like, is that
what's the Olympics this year?
Have they even decided?
Well, it sounds. I mean, they just started to announce. Like, for instance, today it was Team Sweden announced 3 players, I believe. Gabriel Landeskog from the Colorado Avalanche, Mika Zibanejad from the Rangers, and Victor Hedman from the Lightning as their first, because all of the nations, the competing nations, have to name their first 3 players. I guess Canada the other day named Crosby, obviously McDavid, and Alex Pietrangelo, the third player. So it looks like they're going, but apparently there is some sort of clause in there which allows them to get out fairly late into the like, or I should say early in the year, but fairly late, as far as getting close to the event. So I haven't been following it all that much. I was going to educate myself more on that as the season went on, because we're looking at not really worrying about that until February, right?
Yeah,
so
right. Who knows what the situation will be in February for sure. So you don't have a fair price for me on Canada. I might have already bet Canada to win gold. Okay.
Finland,
all right. Okay. Finland. Get out of here.
Honestly, and it's funny too. I was looking for something, and this is just I don't want to just shit on offshores, but like I got excited because I saw a fun market, and it was basically like a big list of players, and it gave prices like, will they be on the Canadian national team for the Olympics? And I went and asked like 3 people about it, and they gave me some opinions on it, and it was like $15 limits. Or to win, it was
good
like
hustle.
To win 50.
And he's grinding.
I'm putting it in. It's like, no, you can't bet that much. I wasn't even going to bet that much on these, and it's like, nope, sorry, this is 10 to win 50. Like, yeah, come on.
Let's take a little bit.
I'm invested. So I'm invested.
Let's take a little bit of a step back though and reflect on the season, the weirdness that was 2020. They played hockey.
Yeah,
they did. It was late in the summer. Actually, it was fall. Oh my God, these games were in September. What? Yeah. These games were in September?
No, I mean the Stanley Cup this year. That was last year.
That was 2 years ago.
I'm looking. Yeah, you're looking at 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Last year.
What happened last year?
Well, we started in January and right into July.
That's right. Okay.
And yeah, I think I forget the exact date. I think around let's say the 20th of July or something like that, the Stanley Cup was handed out. So
yeah, that's right. It was Tampa versus
once they
Montreal.
Magically decided that Canadian teams could let other teams from America in after like, oh, now you can, like Montreal, sure, go up there, go play them. It's fine. I remember it was just, I asked somebody, I'm like, what's happening? They're like, well, they'll just let them in, won't they? I'm like, I guess they have to have the series. And I mean, it was a fun run even for people who don't follow hockey that closely to see. It's always fun because most of the people I know from Canada congregate in the Toronto area, it seems like. And there were a lot of Leafs fans that were super sad, so that was funny.
When I wrote my wrap up piece at VSiN, like after not last season but the season before, the first pandemic season, I suggested that the Canadians were probably the best kind of value bet on the futures board at that time, at 50 to 1. So carried that all the way, and then I mean, betting on Tampa Bay was an easy decision in that Stanley Cup final. So that was a breeze. And
I real quick to give you some credit, I remember you doing a couple of pretty high profile spots where you were like, the price isn't, they can't make a fair price here on Tampa. Like just lay the games line. And I got involved pretty deep at 1.5 and 2.5
minus games. 1.5.
Yeah, so
I went a 4-0 too, which hurt.
hurt. I saw there was value in the 2.5 spread, the 1.5 spread, and the series price. It was just crazy, man. I mean, the Lightning are objectively better than the Vegas Golden Knights, and they were last year. And the Knights were so much, they were way bigger of a favorite versus the Canadians than the Lightning were. And it was the second year in a row that this happened, because the same thing happened with Dallas the previous year. So it was an easy narrative to spin, even though the numbers lined up with everything.
Yeah. That's how we know when the series was, and without me even looking it up, because I remember sweating like Game 3 was the one they lost
right before July
in
4th.
overtime. I was in Denver at my brother-in-law's house, like watching a score bug on my phone on his deck, and it was the 4th of July weekend. So yeah, it's weird.
Right.
Hockey over the 4th.
That was right. You got it exactly. It was July 2nd was Game 3. Tampa Bay took the commanding 3-0 lead. And then I had some 4-0 too, and I fired hard on Montreal in Game 4. So that was a very memorable, happy, memorable series all told.
Yeah.
Thanks to Andy's handicap, which, credit to you. But yeah, no, it's
people get swept up in the Cinderella story and like, oh, you can't bet against
no
this
doubt.
team.
No,
and I think that played into it as well. The same, like I said, the same thing that happened the year before with Dallas. I mean, I guess while we're on the subject, I mean, like teams like the Canadiens and the Stars and these kind of run of the mill teams that have decent goaltending and, pretty good structure to their game. They got enough guys that are willing to do the dirty work and, pay the extra price and all that stuff to, block shots and all those little things that matter in the playoffs. And, with a little bit of luck, those teams can go pretty far. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple of years, but at the end of the day, they're still definitely outmatched against a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I think we just bet the Lightning again, didn't we, Drew? Like, do you have any futures yet?
No,
I'm almost sure I probably just have some again.
I don't have Lightning this year. I think there's there are a couple other paths to victory. And actually, specifically on that note, does the weird season last year, does the compressed season and the short turnaround impact the teams that made deep playoff runs negatively? And do we worry at all about a team like the Lightning underperforming? Is this a narrative-y nonsense, or is there a potential fatigue angle against some of these guys that made deep runs?
I don't think it's nonsense by any means. I'm not sure I'd worry too much about it when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look, the Lightning are a tough team to kind of gauge in the regular season. I mean, last year it seemed like they were just kind of sleepwalking through things. I mean, it was going to take a miracle for them not to make the playoffs in the Central Division, the way things were shaped up there. And I think obviously they knew that. They didn't have Kucherov, and Stamkos missed a lot of time, and so I don't necessarily think that the regular season was a priority for them last year. Obviously they flipped the switch in the playoffs, but looking at things this year, they're back in the Atlantic Division. That's they're in there with the Bruins, the Leafs, the Panthers. Those are three pretty good teams. They're going to give them a hard time and not make it easy by any means. I think they're the favorite. I know some people have Toronto as the favorite in the division, but I think the Lightning are the favorite there to win that. But it's extremely close. I think I have 6 points separating Tampa Bay and Boston, who is in fourth or roughly third or fourth, I guess, depending on how you look at it, tied with the Panthers there. So, I mean, it's squished up pretty good in that division, and it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. But I think that the same thing holds true, that this team is going to kind of just focus on making the playoffs and then figure it out when they get there. I mean, they prove that they can kind of do the Jekyll and Hyde thing. So I wouldn't get too wrapped up in the narrative, because once we get to the playoffs, I wouldn't be running to bet against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's for sure.
I mean, you see it in the NBA too, where teams, it's like, all right, they just need to get in and then they can crank it up. And that kind of reminds me too, like I legitimately asked somebody, like, hey, we're doing 82 NBA games this year, right? I'm like 95% sure on this, but I feel like I should ask, as they were giving out like regular season win totals. Like everything is back to the way it was, 2-3 seasons ago. So we don't have the, if you remember, anybody who doesn't watch a ton of hockey, they did all the Canadian teams just play each other, East Coast teams, the West Coast teams.
It's a fun wrinkle.
Plus Minnesota. I honestly kind of like the regionalized stuff. That was fun. But like some of these teams didn't have to do a lot of cross-country traveling last year. They didn't play
it was
the
all
same amount of
regional
games.
pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. That probably, I mean, outside of maybe some guys who weren't in the league a couple years ago, younger guys, like people are used to that. There's not going to be like some adjusting period getting back to like, hey, we got to go out and do the California swing, or we got to go do the prairie swing up in Alberta and stuff. Like,
yeah, I think there will be a little bit of adjusting back to that, though. I mean, it's been a while, right? And I don't know how that'll play out, but I do think the players definitely kind of felt it last season, not having as much travel, and kind of you get to your destination, you might play a couple of games there rather than jump on a plane right after the game finishes up, which is kind of how things are done in normal times. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, like those Western Canadian swings where teams have to go play the Oilers, the Flames, the Canucks. It's 3 and 4 nights, and the same thing with the stretch in California there and whatnot. I mean, I don't think they're looking forward to it by any means.
Okay,
yeah,
so
it's one of those East Coast teams that just didn't have to. Once you got to the playoffs, there was some travel, but obviously it's the playoffs, and they do proper rest in between some of that. And you're playing a couple games in a row, but even some West Coast teams are gonna have to go east and hit a couple teams out there. Like that might be interesting early on. Some of those 3 and 4.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. Like, for example, we've got the Penguins and the Lightning in the opening night. I mean, it doesn't have the marquee feel that it would have had because Crosby and Malkin are both out for that game. I mean, they're going to be both out for a little bit here. It looks like Malkin 2 months and Crosby maybe 4 to 6 weeks. But I think that's good long term for the team. And I guess while we're talking about the Penguins, I would say that they're a team I would like put on futures watch, like monitor, see what happens. Maybe they get off to a really rough start here. I think they're around 25-1 to win the Stanley Cup, and there's a ton of problems with that team. Goaltending is one big problem, but when you've got Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin coming back after having what you would think would be successful surgeries and recovery and all that stuff, it's a good place to be in, having those players healthy, which I don't think either of them have been for quite some time. Crosby's been dealing with this issue for 7 years apparently. So I don't know. But like that would have been a matchup if those two players were in the lineup that everybody would be dying to see, because we haven't seen that in 2 years almost, right? So
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of matchups that are going to be fun to see again for sure.
Yeah, it was surprising seeing them as currently fifth choice in the Metro Division. Very weak consensus there. Basically, even probability across the board with the Hurricanes, Islanders, Rangers, and Caps. Penguins in 5th. Staying on this particular topic, any pent up energy, in the same sense that you're not used to traveling. Is there going to be some pent up energy among the young guys when they get to go to Vegas, get to swing through and see their side chicks in LA? Gonna get a little Vegas flu and return.
Montreal's a fun town too.
Montreal, what are we thinking?
Yeah, not right. I don't know if
Calgary.
I mean, the pandemic is sort of still raging on up here in Canada. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but everything's not quite back to normal. So I don't know how fun Montreal is right now, but yeah, no, it's I like those are questions that, I mean, they're fun to speculate on, but I have no clue, guys. Like, I don't know. I'm not on those trips. I don't run in those circles. I've heard, I don't put anything past.
Was the Vegas flu overblown, or was it real?
I think it was
real,
a little bit of both.
Year one, it was like very real, but it was not for all those guys, right?
I think that it was just a better team than everybody thought they were going to be.
That's the other thing.
They overperformed.
But I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I'm sure there was instances where teams, were burning the candle at both ends and paid for it or whatever. But I'm also sure that there's a lot of randomness mixed in there too. They were just a really good team that year, and I mean, kind of regionally, it's kind of weak. And if you're catching teams on the end of long road trips and whatnot, it's it can add up quickly and start to look like something that it's not. But no, I mean, I don't know.
That's a good point.
I guess that's how I would put it.
No,
sometimes people were catching the Avs before they'd go down there. You'd go I think maybe some Avs Phoenix up to Vegas and doing a road trip like that, and then it all just the cumulative. They're better than we thought they were. we stayed out too late and played craps, and it's our third and fifth, in 5 days. Like some of that kind of adds up, and all of a sudden, and to be fair, they did make the finals. Like they did turn out to be a very good team. Yeah. I wonder about that still though with some of the younger guys. Even when we were in Vegas, like somebody said, "Hey, I just saw the Ravens pull up." Like, where was it? And it's like, it's kind of early to be here, isn't it? The game's not for a while, and a couple days. It makes you wonder on some of these decisions they make when they go to places like that.
I
but
forgot
even
about that.
Fucking Miami and places like, and obviously Miami isn't as important in the NHL, but there are some fun towns around the country.
Where are the Florida Panthers
people with all the money?
Sunrise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So here's how about this for a segue? We have a new team this year. I don't know if people know, but there's a new NHL franchise that has launched. It is the Seattle Kraken. Just looking at their points total and sort of the overall market implied probability to make the playoffs, and just in general, it almost looks like not going to catch us sleeping again on one of these expansion teams where they end up being a heck of a lot better than the old expansion teams used to be.
Yeah, I think it's gone too far, right? The other way.
It's gone too. Okay, so potentially there's been a little bit of an overcorrection in terms of what to expect out of this expansion team potentially.
If you ask another person, they might have a different opinion. I know Dom Lucian at the Athletic. He has a lot. He has them a lot higher than I do. I think he's at around 96 points. Evolving Hockey put out their projections today. Where did they have them? 96 points. I'm around 90 points, 90.5 actually. So quite a bit lower. And the market, I think, is more in line with what I think. I mean, I think it was up around 95, 96 points, came down to 94.5, and now it's at 92.5, I believe. So I don't know. Take that for what it's worth, I guess. But
I don't know. Do you do any of that? The regular? Do you get into points totals at all?
Yeah. I mean, they were one of have always been one of the markets that I've enjoyed kind of beating up the most. I mean, sports books are off on these roughly 8 or 9 points on average, right? So it's it's not like it's something that isn't beatable, and I've always seemed to like to focus on that. Obviously, more of that focus has come on producing the guide for other people and whatnot. Sure. As more of my focus is on betting game lines, but I still do bet some preseason stuff for sure, and point totals are. I mean, if you're getting to them early, if you were able to, I mean, I think there was some outrageously high point totals on the Kraken immediately following the expansion draft, like before anybody had put anything up. Like obviously, like last year they had some ridiculously low point totals up for the potential expansion team in the 60s and 70s, and then once the team was picked, they kind of I think there was some that were even up close to 99 points or something like that. So I mean, if you got there early, you could definitely get some value, and there's probably a big way to win both bets. I mean, if you were looking ahead a little bit, but
you need a pretty big middle there, though.
Yeah, overall the team is not bad, I don't think. I mean, it's a weak division. The Pacific is arguably the weakest division. I don't think it's really arguably it is. They've got Anaheim. You look at the Central, it's a top heavy division with Colorado, obviously kind of a class above everybody else. But there's a lot of teams that are pretty good that are kind of stuck in the mushy middle there. And the Pacific, I mean, there's that one top elite team, the Vegas Golden Knights, and then you've got the Oilers and the Flames and the Kraken and Canucks and down the California teams and whatnot. But the skill is definitely, it drops off as we go down a lot more than any of the other divisions. But the Kraken, they've got what looks like great goaltending, probably the best goaltending tandem in that division with Chris Drieger and Philip Grubauer, who was the Vezina finalist last year for the Avalanche. And they've got a really, really solid blue line. Like like so much so that I'm sure a lot of teams around the league are jealous of what they have on the blue line. But the forward group, it's good, but they're not going to match up well against teams like the Oilers and whatnot in terms of their offensive firepower and I think, and based on the work that I've done, I think it's pretty hard. Like teams can kind of enact that strategy in the playoffs where they want to keep it low scoring, they want to keep things tight and just kind of play a committed team defense game where everybody has their role and nobody lets up any areas. But doing that game in, night out over the course of an 82 game season, it's a lot different. And I find that teams that are structured that way have a hard time because they leave too much up to luck, right? Yeah, they've kept it close, but when you're deadlocked in the 2-2 game late in the third period, and the other team has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, luck is going to go their way more often than not. So that edge kind of just automatically goes to the other side a lot in a lot of situations, right? If that makes sense.
Absolutely. 100%.
We've had conversations about just how much luck plays into hockey, and like you made me so uncomfortable about betting hockey when you explain that to me. And I'm like, but I understood it, but like I said,
but this is in our favor, though, guys. Like, I mean,
yes.
No doubt.
In my opinion, you guys are crazy for not just ditching all that other stuff and just focusing on the NHL because it's very it's beatable, right? Like I've
thought about betting like soft openers, just ruining the soft market. Like, I could talk to like 3-4 people, get some good power rankings together, and probably beat soft.
No, I'm not talking to you now.
Before we move off of points totals, because I just have a couple curiosity questions.
I have one more thing.
One's quick. The Misfit is, you said, almost 9 points. Do they offer alt point total markets where you can bet into? They do.
I mean, you can bet them everywhere.
Maybe in
I don't know.
Canada.
Okay.
Where is it? 7.5 points on average is what I have for the last. I think I'm looking at the last 3 years.
So can you pick out like a high variance team and say, okay, well, this team's got long tails. Let's hit them in the alt point market.
You're not going to find a lot of alt stuff around. Okay. So that's like, I mean, that's something that's probably going to come, and you're probably going to see more of that in the next few seasons. And you might see some of that at an offshore book that may or may not operate in Canada and specifically kind of cater to Canadians, but
not gonna get much down. Not gonna get.
No, I don't think you're gonna see anything like that this year. I haven't seen anything. But yeah, no, I mean, I would if that was the case, and I could bet alt lines, I would totally eat that up. I think that would be obviously with so much variance. You'd be crazy not to give it a shot.
Yeah. And then how about the another quick question? Do you feel like the market is relatively robust at this point to the tune of you'll regress to the market? Will you use point totals to help give you kind of like a standardized market power ranking in your own handicap, or do you completely divorce the two?
Not really. I mean, I'm going to focus more on the market, the game-to-game market, and what happens over the first 15 to 20 games to kind of fine-tune everything. Point totals, I mean, there's no there is a lot of there are some big differences. I mean, even now, even a week out, there are still some books that are hanging this number and another book that's hanging.
That's my question. It's like,
so I mean, who is the right? Who's right? Who's
that we were going? That's where we were going. That's what we want to know.
I don't know. And
you hope it's somewhere. Yeah, there are some. And you said like they're off by like 7.5 games on average. There's going to be some of these that are off 20. There's going to be
I'm off 7 points on average too, right? That's not like I'm fairly in line actually. Like I think 2 years ago was I've only had these on record. This is the 4th year that I've had these on record. So 2 years ago in 18-19, I finished ahead of Dom, which was my crowning achievement there with the season point totals forecast, and the betting market was 8.08 points off on average. Dom was 7.85. I was 7.74. The next season, Dom was only about 7 points off. I was about 7.3 off, and so was the betting market. Last season, kind of a down year, I guess. Dom 7.46 points off on average. The betting market 7.53, and Andy at 7.96. So it wasn't a great year for preseason, but still a profitable year. I mean, I believe if you go through the guide and pick out the value bets from last year's guide, still profitable between regular season point totals and division futures. We had the Hurricanes cashed around plus 425, I think, and the Penguins cashed around plus 400. So there was definitely some good bets for sure.
Yeah, just I get that there's some long tails here, but man, some of these, and you're not going to get down big money on most of these, but they're still like the fact that they're the fact that a lot of places are taking $1,000. The fact that they're leaving middles of this size that people could just sit and find 5-point middles at $1,000 on each side is wild.
Such a difference between the Westgate opened first, and I think Circa opened like 2 or 3 days later, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of the action that Circa saw, kind of right off the hop was just people running the middle because there was some huge differences. I know there was a big difference between where they had Toronto, the Maple Leafs, much higher than the Westgate had opened them at. So there was definitely people running to do that, and that shape that had a lot. That actually had an effect on where those point totals move. So how much stock do we put into a point total movement if it's kind of like
if it's all hard players,
I don't know,
not much.
Whatever. I think there's maybe some good indications in there if you monitor it over this month here, but yeah, I mean, I think you're going to learn more about the teams based on what happens over the first kind of 6 weeks or so.
Just out of curiosity, do you remember if Toronto made their high total last year?
I think they did.
Well, they won the division.
Probably
because
did, right?
They were the top seed in Canada, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm guessing they did. I think it was like 79.5, and I think Circa might have opened around 81 or like 83 or something. I think they went under Circa and over. I think the middle hit. Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head though.
All good.
And you would think a lot of these, the actual true median is probably somewhere in where those middles are sitting for a lot of these. There's going to be for every one that lands, there's probably going to be several that go way over, way under. But man, some of those, you hit a couple of those middles, you win 2 bets. I'm still just flummoxed by that altogether. And it looks like, God, what would they be? The North Division? Yeah, the Maple Leafs ended up with 77 points last year.
77.
So maybe they went under both of them. Wow. I can't remember. It was close.
Canada just sucked.
Canada did quite. Yeah, it was.
Nobody got to 80.
Okay, so fair. Okay, this is informative so far, and I really appreciate this because there are a couple of.
I would hope so.
No, I mean, because there are a couple of sports where the market signal is so strong. If you're not incorporating it in some way, God help you. But it sounds like at least
I'm confident. I mean, going back, I'm confident in what I'm doing. Right?
No,
honestly,
no.
I it's not like a cockiness or anything like
that.
It's just I'm not gonna.
There are some markets that I bet into regularly that I don't have respect. When they move against me, I'm like, oh, good.
I don't have respect for a lot. I don't get me wrong. I have respect for anybody that can move a line, anybody that has influence. Sure. I think you're foolish not to have some sort of and especially if it's happening all the time. But I used to be so apprehensive to bet against Steam, especially big Steam. But I've definitely come around on that. It's not that I don't respect anybody else. It's just that I respect my opinion just as much, right? So
so when you were saying you pay attention to the market on a game by game type of approach, are you looking for patterns in terms of other market makers? Who are they consistently finding value in? Is that what you mean? Because here, great example. If you're I know my market number is high on the Bruins, and I know that my market number is low on the Maple Leafs. And I've seen now for the first 5 games of the season, somebody's gone out and bet the Maple Leafs every single game. And now they're playing the Bruins in the 6th game. you're like, okay, I have that information. I'm expecting Maple Leafs action to come in because those players have been rewarded. But I know I want the Bruins, so I know I can wait. Like, is that general?
There's some of that. There's a little bit of that sometimes. But I have a recent example. Like, so last year there was a group that just kind of showed up on the block, and they were crushing NBA lines as well. So you might have kind of seen these guys or you kind of know what I'm talking about. So I don't have a lot of info on who they were or what they were, but they were really messing things up. I mean, they were like when they bet, everything moved, and it was everybody, and they must have had leaks too because everybody was following them, right? Like it was wild. I haven't really seen a whole lot, especially with hockey. Like things just like numbers just flying. Like every time they bet something, it would just the whole screen would light up and numbers would fly out of range. The same thing was happening with NBA too. I believe they were betting NBA totals pretty hard and losing.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was.
This is correct. Yes,
terrible they did terrible. This specific group who had much more influence than I had, and I have some influence, and they were dwarfing anything I did and making me feel like an idiot. And after a couple of months, like it's just a little bit like. It's just hard. You're going every day when you think you've got a good number, but there's somebody out there that's like almost is operating in like a totally different way than you have ever kind of like. I mean, I think I kind of have a feel for what's out there in the market, and so this dynamic was like, it really screwed up what I thought I knew about everything, and I kind of had to reassess that because numbers that I thought were good. As good as I thought they were in past years would never, even if they did not move for me, they would never move back very hard. There would always be that resistance. And last year it was like, I had a few instances where like I got killed in terms of closing line value. And it was like, that's worse than losing a bet. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you're doing this, you want to, it doesn't look very, it doesn't look like you know what you're doing when that happens.
Even if you're winning, it's like it gets in your head.
Yeah,
I make these bets. They're getting thrown right back in my face. It might close.
They're laughing at me. Like it's not a good feeling, right?
A big group is throwing these back in my face, and then the worst part about that is if you're winning, because then you have to sit and think like, am I getting lucky? Should I be winning? Because these are not closing on. They're not closing. Going to my side, they're getting thrown back in my face by another group with influence, but I'm still winning. Am I right or am I lucky? Whereas if you're losing and you have bad CLV, you can at least adjust shit and be like, all right, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about these markets, and I can adjust. Like it's goofy to say. And also, like anybody who ever sees that asshole on Twitter, and this is not one specific guy, but anybody who posts like, come on, like let's go get him. It's us versus the books tonight. Like just listen to the last 5 minutes of what Andy said. It's not like for sure. It's like it's a competition to get get the best numbers on these.
It's you're taking money from the other players. The books are taking money from everyone.
Yeah, they're just facilitating Andy and these other people fighting over hockey numbers.
That's a great way to put it. And I guess at the end of the day, though, that group won't be, unless they've figured something else out, they won't be messing around with hockey markets this season, probably, right? Like it was a trial and error that didn't go their way. But so there's like, but they were still causing me grief, right? I mean, even though it was something that kind of shook me up. So
ultimately, it sounds like that was a good thing, because I'm sure there were times back in the day where there were like market makers in baseball who were like the OG end boss gods betting baseball, and then some analytic, some sabermetric shit came through, and they were like, no, these ERAs, and I'm looking at the Sierra, and this should be going this way, and it's not. And like that, that kind of, next generation that came after that, I guarantee you there were some people who were like, I lost my edge. I'm calling it a career, betting baseball. And I guess the fact that you were still able to kind of continue to grind an edge in hockey, even though there was somebody else out there splashing in the
full
pool.
disclosure, I had
Yeah,
I was not losing at all for the first 2 months. January, February, I was just cruising, like probably more so than I ever had before. And sometime in March, things just stopped going my way, and I was losing worse than I had ever lost before. I lost 11 bets in a row at one point, like, and for somebody that's fairly like low volume, like you guys would consider me really low volume when it comes to my sides. It's like losing 11 bets in a row is like could be 2 weeks. Dude, or it could be a week or whatever, or a week and a half of misery.
That's a lot of bedtimes when you're sitting there thinking about it.
You just described my NBA season last year, although it was on steroids. Jesus. It was on steroids. I was like hitting an impossible clip through the All-Star break. The week going into the All-Star break, things got a little rocky. And then the month out of the All-Star break, I think I was like, I'm not even joking, I think I was like 3-25. It's not a joke. Only betting sides, and I was getting massive CLV for the first 3 weeks of it, and then finally the third week, stuff gets thrown back in my face, and I'm like, maybe I should just call it a season. This is not going well.
I had those moments.
Rescued it, but it was an absolutely bizarre season last year.
It was challenging, like mentally, but just kept grinding. I took a couple of breaks. I mean, even if just a couple of days, like, listen, I'm just gonna pack it in for a couple of days and forget that this is going on. And whatever.
What happens when you come back from your break and you go 0-3? You're like, what the fuck?
That did happen. Well, at least I was.
Yeah, we're like rubbing it in here. It's like,
at least I hadn't gone 0-3 in the consecutive days before that or whatever. Right? I had a little
net
break,
zero on those days I took off.
But like at the end of the day, I didn't get killed too bad. Like I did really good at the start of the season, and then I basically just spun my tires. Outside of that really bad streak, I was just spinning my tires, which is something that I've done a lot of over the years. When I have had bad runs, it's mostly been me just spinning my tires, not so much getting my ass handed to me and losing a bunch, which is good and possible in the NHL, right?
That's a thing that happens up here where it snows, Drew. I don't know if you understand.
The playoffs.
Spinning your tires analogy. Yeah.
The playoffs were good. They were very good to me. So like everything, I lost an insane amount of money on hockey props. Not because the hockey props were bad, but because of certain staking issues, getting a bunch on one and not as enough on the other. You know what I mean? Like the props overall were very good, but when you get $1,000 on one and $100 on another, and or you got three with $150 on them and one with 1,000, and you win the three with small bets and lose the big one. Like that's stuff
the way
happens,
it goes,
right?
man.
So,
if you're only getting 1,000 if someone else out there disagrees.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it was the playoffs were good, and I really enjoy the regular season though. I mean, that's where I butter my bread.
I like it. And it's funny because I'm the opposite. I'll just watch the playoffs because the playoffs are fun. Well, also, I'm not betting hockey. Not betting hockey yet.
Okay, so here's a good
online openers about to get.
This another great segue by you then. So what is your plan of attack then to for props this year? Just focus on sides and totals, or do you think there's now a bigger market for that?
I mean, like player props are pretty widely available at most places, and if you don't have if whatever sportsbook you're using doesn't have them, I mean, look around. It's not. I mean, there's no excuse like, oh, my sportsbook doesn't have player props. Like they're out there and they're like pretty plentiful now. And so VSiN and myself, we partner with Range Hockey, an outlet that I kind of have collaborated with. It's headed up by my good friend Cole Anderson, who's a data scientist and a former goaltender.
Ice Cole, what's
Ice Cole
Ice Cole Data, yeah. He's
great data viz, yeah.
Yeah, he's behind the scenes there working away. He's a busy man, but one of the smartest guys I know. And over a year ago, I don't want to say I saw people catching up to what I was doing. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm like that far ahead of everybody or anything, but I saw like I looked and I saw, and I looked at kind of like how, a lot of, there's like now more than ever, a lot of people that never cared about sports betting before care about sports betting because they see the dollar signs, right? So I'm an OG, I'm an original. I'm here because it's like something I'm passionate about, not something I'm doing just for profit. That's the bonus. I get to do something I love for a living, right? But I wanted to do things different. I didn't think that the status quo was good enough. I didn't think that me, giving out a couple of sides every day or not was good enough for people. And I love to navigate these markets, but I have to treat this as if if I was running a betting group, right? And what I would do if I was looking to attack player props is I would go out and find somebody like Cole that can build the tools that I want, because I don't have the time to spend on this. I've got other things to do, right? So it's like he went out and kind of we had this vision of a player prop pricing tool, something that we could really lean on, or that I could really lean on to generate content, and that's what we got here. It's called the Puck Propagator. Every single day of the season, every game, it's going to update based on various predictive factors. And it's going to give tons of projections. I've got I'm sitting here right now and I'm looking at I can just look at one game, but both games for the 10th or the 12th of October opening day. I've got we've got goals under over whether up to 3.5. We've got assists under over up to 3.5, points under over up to 3.5. Same with shots. And I've got even a little bit more of that in my kind of the back end of it that I can look at.
Salami predictions?
No, we don't have that.
Add that. I'm going to talk to Cole tonight. I love the salami, especially on a small slate. But we just need to get to 15.
There's virtually like no player prop that we cannot price. I mean,
that's cool.
We would like to add in first and last goal scorer or whatever, because obviously we already have it. It's just not there to look at.
Okay. And so in general, for the average player, this is a way to give you more value in a softer market and more volume even, because a lot of days you may not even see value on the side.
In one game, there's, in one team is going to ice 20 player or whatever, 18 skaters or whatever. Right. So you're looking at 40 players on the ice, in a game, and, each of those players has 4 player props. Right. So it can add up pretty quick, and there's a lot here, and I mean nobody would be able to. The NBA and NFL and things like that, it's a little bit different. You can sit back and you can kind of dive into the guys' previous games or previous season, and look at different predictive factors and whatnot. And the NHL is the same thing, but it doesn't translate to the conversation like some of the other sports do, because it's like,
no doubt. Yeah.
It's so you really need to ramp it up here, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, like I feel like I can keep somebody's attention talking about hundreds of player props, maybe not one or two, right? So
with the NFL, it's for sure. You have an offensive player.
You guys can sit there and talk about like one player for 20 minutes. It's insane.
Easy.
Like you don't even.
You get a wide receiver. You can talk about what is the plan for the secondary on him. Yeah, you can just BS for that. But like, my mind is just spinning now too, because again, maybe in the NBA,
there's none of that with hockey, right?
Yeah, well, no, there is. It's way different, because in the NBA, usage and who's going to be defending the primary defender, and but also like you're going to start to get into game state. But hockey's super fluid. Like you think about game state, and certain players are going to accumulate a bunch of counting stats when the other team puts a certain lineup out against them. But in hockey, that's a mess. There's 4 lines, and you got is that something you have to figure out? Like, how often is this guy going to be out there versus like their third line defenders in?
That's part of it. I wouldn't say so much that's a little bit complicated, like as far as the strength of competition and stuff like that. That's where things get really complicated. But we're I mean, this is it's taking a number of things into account, but definitely, scoring rates and time on ice rates and stuff like that from the past, right?
So two key questions for you about
that's
the
kind
puck
of baked into
propagator.
it for sure.
Key question number one about the puck propagator. Do you know who from an odds maker standpoint, who currently originates some of the hockey props?
Yeah, I do. Not off the top of my head. There's a third party provider that apparently does a lot of it. Like I forget what they're.
Okay.
It's probably about a year.
Have you guys tried to kind of back calc how they're doing it?
Oh, everything is back tested. Yeah, it's
no. I mean, but when do you know
through the market? You mean?
Not just like the original odds come out, and it's like, because I feel like that's an important element to this, which is like, how do they come up with those? Like, it's a pretty straightforward bang minutes times rate times team strength, a little bit of adjustments for
you're looking at like fancy index. Poison distribution, like that's pretty much it. Like, I mean, no, I'm not talking about what we're doing. I'm talking about, like, I mean, I've gone through in the past and looked at, whatever. Let's just pull a bunch of some of the top stars and their goals, goal props or assist props or points props or anything like that, and like it almost a lot of the time it like matches like 1-to-1 to what you would get if you just like looked at like, oh, this guy scores 0.75 points a game. What's the poison for, the Poisson? Sorry.
I was going to say plus EV analytics already gives me a ton of shit because I can't say it right. I'm like,
I'm just waiting
to snitch on you.
I usually try to make an effort, but whatever, who cares?
That was basically what I was curious about, and that makes total sense that they would approach it that way. So then, what would be considered kind of a long-term success? Because I imagine if people are like, if like the players are hitting these for $25-$50 sitting down watching the hockey night in America or hockey night,
you can get more than that down.
No, but that's the people, the folks who you're communicating to, the folks you're listening to on the radio, watching you on that's what they're doing. They're not going to get accounts closed. You just want to give them an added entertainment, and what would be considered a success at the end of the season. For what you're.
I would consider. I want to like kind of not just around the propagator, but I want to build a community around kind of what I'm doing. I want to be a lot more hands-on, and a success for me would be, kind of taking people along that ride with me on a more consistent basis. And, cool. if people can make a profit and have some fun, that's great. I mean, no promises, obviously, it's gambling, right? But I can promise you one thing, and that we're definitely going to make more predictions than anybody else this season, right? Like, nobody's going to make as many predictions as we make. I mean, we're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of player props priced every day, and then obviously I'll bring my game model and my picks to the table and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be navigating these markets and curating some of the best bets and whatnot. But I think a success would be to just generate a lot of buzz around this and to make this something that becomes kind of part of people's weekly routines. I mean, the plan is right now, I think we're going to start with a YouTube stream on Tuesday, sorry, and that might move to 2 days a week eventually, maybe more than that. But
cool.
But yeah, no, we're just gonna figure things out as we go. It's all this came together fairly quick. I mean, this has been in the works for a long time, but as far as the partnership with VSiN and whatnot, it all came together rather quick. So we're still kind of hammering things out there.
It's cool. So last question then, what does the puck propagator price McDavid Hart?
The puck propagator only focuses. It doesn't do season long.
Even money though. Just say even money.
Even
if
money.
If he's healthy, he wins.
Let's see. What we got, McDavid? Actually, we can look at.
Bo likes it. I've heard.
Well, he's. We have him. 80.4% chance that he'll score a point in his first game. So
nice.
He's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he got 2 last night in exhibition. So
yeah.
How many games did he play then? Let's just say all of them.
82, sure.
82. Yeah, there you go. That's I mean, and he's definitely
easy 100 points.
He's definitely you're looking at like it's his trophy to lose, man. I had somebody ask me this today, and player futures aren't my game. The reason I didn't spend any time this year in the guide. I thought I might have given out a 1 or 2 player futures in just kind of like thrown in there with things, but I didn't spend any time on the player awards or the Stanley Cup futures this year because both of those markets have been like they've opened up months ago and they've been the crap has been bet out of them. And why would you like are we going to talk about Trevor Zegras to win the Rookie of the Year at 5-1 when you could bet him at 16-1 or 20-1 2 months ago, right? Like it's just a waste of time. So
I didn't know I should have bet him at all, so maybe I will.
Well, I'm just saying, like
Zegras is down to like 2-1 at places.
Is he really?
Yeah, I have him at 16. Stupid. I have him at 16-1. I took Quentin Byfield at 16-1 as well. I took while we're on the topic, Saros at 40-1 or 35-1. Jacob Markstrom at 40-1 to win the Vezina.
Okay.
And I think I took Todd McClellan. Yeah, I did. Los Angeles Kings head coach. I don't think the Kings are going to make the playoffs more often than not. I think it's like a fairly long shot, to be honest. But at 100-1, I think they've got a better chance than that. And if they do, he'll be in the running for Coach of the Year. So
nice.
I threw a little bet on him at 100-1, and Paul Maurice at 25-1 to win Coach of the Year for the Winnipeg Jets because I think they're going to have a pretty good season too.
Gotcha. Well, currently
we're gonna have to rewind this and write all those down.
Yeah,
I will honestly.
Currently at
nobody's gonna watch this for an hour anyway. I mean,
that's a good point. We have time.
Some people like hockey. I don't.
No, we have time.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Currently at Chris McDavid to win the Hart Trophy is plus 190. And you can bet to win 1,000. I imagine that they allow rebets. You said it was his trophy.
I'm gonna guess that it's fair. Like that's fairly fair. Like I mean, it's his trophy to lose, but like
he could always
like I don't know. Like,
do you want to guess who the second choice at Chris is right now?
I am
Russian
gonna
guy that the Wild just re-signed.
No. Oh, by the way,
a big deal about that here.
Did you see this? Did you see that? I pulled his rookie card the other day.
There we go.
Nice.
Real Kaprizov.
You send that my way. I'll go get it autographed for you at a game. I'll totally return it.
Yeah, I don't know, Matthews maybe or McKinnon. Probably McKinnon. I guess
McKinnon is plus 580. Matthews is plus 680. But no, the second choice is apparently a player named Field. Plus 287.
Oh,
could be anyone. Could be anyone.
No,
that's they have a really.
Not that is. I think that is a terrible bet. Like if you're going to take the Field against McDavid, insane. You want more than
insane.
Plus, what is it? So, plus 218.
Plus 287. Yeah.
Technically, I was right then when I said that Russian kid from the Wild because he's definitely not
he's in the field. Yeah, he is in the field.
He is in the field.
What's his name?
Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah, he is in the field. So
yeah, he's
correct.
I think that like
hockey sharp.
I'm not going to be the
hockey sharp.
I'm not going to be the guy that's like, oh, don't bet on McDavid to win the Hart. Like if you want to, like you don't need me to tell you that, right? Like it's like
no,
this guy that's like somebody messaged me on Twitter today and was like, hey, I have a hockey guy I follow, and my first question was like, why aren't you following me? But they're like, oh, I got a hockey guy that I follow, and he said that McDavid's locked to win the Hart, and it's like that doesn't take any effort to kind of like come up with. A million people are going to say that, so it's like I don't know why you're telling me, like kind of thing, but yeah, I don't know.
That's one bet that for the info. Be like, thanks, buddy. I'm gonna do it.
Thank you.
I'm running with that.
Oh, really?
I have some McDavid Hart at like plus 350 because both said so. Like, I'm not going to not take futures. I love future bets. I think I have some Calgary over. I have the Kraken looking for a middle and a couple other ones. I mean, none of this is mine. It's thanks.
I think one bet I like, as far as Rocket Richard bet is Alex DeBrincat, the Chicago Blackhawks. Only 2 players scored more goals per 60 minutes last season than DeBrincat, and the season before he kind of had a down year, but he's been on an upwards trajectory for a while now, and I think he could, if there's an injury to a guy like McDavid and you have him at 20-1 to win the Rocket Richard, he's going to be in. I think he's a lock to be in the top 10 goal scorers this year, and I think he's got a really good chance to be in that top 5, top 3 kind of area. So.
Well, I just moved the market on Andy for that one, so sorry, Andy.
Oh, did you?
I had the damn thing.
He was 20-1, 50 to win 1,000. So that sounds fun.
Nice.
I like that.
Nice.
I like it.
I had the exact same bet in for the same amount, and it did the thing where, hey, you're not actually logged in.
You're not actively logged in.
It's been doing that lately.
Yeah, they're being more aggressive about that, I think.
Super annoying,
I get
just
it.
like if I'm not logged in, I'm not logged in. Why would just log me out then? Before we let you go, because we only did get an hour of you and we jabbed a lot about other stupid
We went like
shit.
an hour and a half last year.
There was a lot more wrinkles last year.
Yeah, there were wrinkles. And a lot of wrinkles here. I need to. You mentioned the YouTube thing, which is fine and dandy. I mean, I'm sure you'll promote that when you find it. But if people actually want to listen to you talk hockey during the season, do you have any sort of schedule, or what's your deal on?
Yeah,
VSiN?
I mean, people
are looking for you during the year.
The schedule on VSiN will take shape. I mean, I'm sure I'll be on a numbers game a few times a week, and I'll be on primetime action. I know Drew does that show too as well sometimes. That's an evening show on MSG Plus, which is, kind of right before the games kick off. And that'll definitely be a show where I discuss a lot of player prop stuff, having it right prior to the game. Yeah, but as far as like what I'll be doing on a daily basis, it looks like I'll have my own kind of section on the website there where I'll get to update things. Probably I'm looking at doing things twice a day, like maybe a little update in the morning with some thoughts on, after I do a show or whatever, I'll be able to update folks on a bet I like or some stuff to monitor coming out of practices in the morning, and then closer to noon or early afternoon, I think I'll have a whole slew of player props kind of curated, depending on the size of the slate. If we're talking about a 10-game slate, well, we're gonna have a lot more player props to go through, and the opposite for a shorter slate, right? But I think on any given night you can expect to have at least a dozen player props to kind of choose from. I mean,
gambling problem.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, no, it's. I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm sure it's going to be a good thing, but I think people are going to be really receptive to it. It's not going to be public facing right now. Like, I mean, people can't go in and play with the app, which is originally what I was hoping for. But with such short turnaround time, we just want to get this off the ground and get it out there to people and make sure that they're benefiting from all the work that we put in. We didn't want it to go to waste in 21, 22. That's for sure. We did really well in the playoffs last year, and going to hopefully continue that this regular season.
I love it, man. Fantastic.
And don't forget the book. Pimp your book quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the guy is
the hockey betting guy.
Very cool.
Yeah, I would charge more. Like if I was selling it, I would charge you guys more because I mean, I know how much it's worth.
Yeah,
but VSiN, they're just like using hockey as their like here, have some of this, so you can come and see what other stuff we're doing. No, I'm just joking.
It's got a great schedule breakdown at the end, which might be one of the more invaluable parts. You can get the key, it's got the 2 and 2s, 3 and 4s, 4 and 6, 5 and 7, 6 and 9s identified. All of that, the mismatch in rest is, I'm sure, an angle that a lot of the opening, overnight
you
bettors
should shoot pretty
hard
on this. I mean, it's more of a. I find the value in the schedule is more in just knowing what's going on and always look ahead a day or 2 days to kind of get a feel from what kind of condensed if a team has a more condensed schedule to have an idea of okay, well maybe the backup goaltender is going to start that night or something like that. Right?
Yeah, here's why it matters though. Is because if you don't account for it and you're making fair, you're going to miss that, and you're going to always be betting on the teams that are tired.
Yeah, no, for sure, right. It should be baked in. Yeah, that's a great point, and that's what I used to use. That's the the kind of comeback I used to use to defend when people would say, "Oh, it's already baked into the line." It's like, well, if you're not baking it into your line, then you're missing out.
Yeah,
so
that's a big point we make on the schedule podcast we do over the summer. Sure. We say we know, like, hey, everybody knows they played. Yeah,
you still have to know.
Like, you still need to.
That's like saying
bake it into your shit. Exactly.
That's like going to rolling into the sports book an hour before the game time and. Oh yeah, McDavid got hurt a couple hours ago, like, and then not kind of baking that into your line. Like, I mean, it was I don't know. But yeah.
That is why we have you on, because you charge us half price for the book when we have you on here. So it's awful nice to take a look at it. And again,
I gave it to you? No. I gave you one copy free between the two of you. Is that what you mean? Like, that's how I charge you half price?
I sent money somewhere.
Well, different Andy McNeil. I went to school with 4 Andy McNeils, so like it could have been one of them, right? Like, I don't know.
Did you grow up in Scotland?
Yeah, pretty much. New Scotland.
I love it, man. Well, it's a great guide. It's a great resource. It will catch if you are listening to this pod and you're like, holy effing bleep. The season starts in a week. I am screwed. This is a perfect opportunity to kind of get a crash course in what reasonable fares are for these teams, some value bets, and really appreciate you putting all this together. So
we didn't even get to talk hats, man.
We didn't even get to talk hats.
Where's
the Bruins hat? And where's the Bruins hat? And
you're wearing the best one.
At what point are you going to bet the Bruins to win the Stanley Cup this year?
I don't know.
What's the buy price on Bruins Stanley Cup?
What's the buy price?
Because it's not 10-1. I'll tell you that much.
Is that where they're at right now? Yeah. Where you're looking?
Yeah.
I think it would have to be a little bit higher than that. I mean, Stanley Cup, like I said, I haven't spent any time. 14. No, I still want a little bit higher than that. I mean, like I guess the best you could hope for is that. They struggle a little bit out of the gate with a new goaltender and a little bit of less depth at the center position heading into this year. I actually like their point total under 106 or no, what is it, 103.5? Is that where it's at right now?
One of your value bets under 103.
Yeah, it's not one I like, but it gotta just bet the numbers, right? And I do think the Bruins probably take a step back this year. So.
Fair enough. Well, we appreciate your time. Best of luck to start the season. Look forward to catching all your spots in the burgeoning media landscape around hockey betting, which is now
it's just you and Loose Chicken.
This is your market to take, man. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't. There's going to be a lot more people talking about it, and producing content this year as far as hockey and betting goes.
The chances that those people are also making the market on it is not good.
Yeah, well, and I would say that you definitely want to. I would lean towards people like listening to people like myself that were doing this before it was mainstream, right? So and Dom is one of those people too. I'm not he's been an avid sports bettor for quite a while now, and he's really good at what he does. I think if you can't afford a subscription to The Athletic and one to VSiN, then you probably shouldn't be betting on hockey. I mean, let's just be honest, right? Like, it's like $6 a month plus whatever, it's not going to break the bank.
That's a good point.
Skip the coffee tomorrow. Buy the book. And Andrews, the Triple Andrews show, call it a day. We'll call it a year.
Best luck this season, buddy.
Meet back
call
in
it a year.
While, huh?
See you never.
See you next October, weirdo. I'm excited though. Like I'm pumped. I placed like 3 hockey bets while we were on air. So, all right, we'll hit the music. And again, anybody who's looking for, if you don't follow him at Digital Gambler, maybe you're listening to this in podcast form at Digital Gambler. He's giving a thumbs up right now. If you're listening on the podcast form, he's excited to have you as a new follower on Twitter.
That's right.
Yeah, you'll see how happy-go-lucky I am every day.
That's right. There are people that are willing to just take their edge in hockey and bet it and keep it all to themselves. And then there are the Andys of the world who will bring you along for the ride. And for that, we are grateful. So appreciate you. Let's producer Dan. Let's hit the music.
still,
forgetting
it's still. Oh, he left too.
Andy bounces so quick. He's in and he's out. I think it's a VSiN thing because they usually hang up on you after your
hang up
segment.
immediately.
Yeah, bang, you're done. So that's